Hello, we're back. Sorry about that. There was some sort of technical issue with YouTube of all things, but everything's up and running. But if you are watching on YouTube and you're not getting a good picture, just nip over to Facebook. The problem was Facebook. So if you are having a problem with Facebook, just nip over to YouTube and you'll be able to watch it properly there. Should be all fixed now. But anyway, I'll start again if I can remember. So what we're talking about was that we've got Rich Allen coming on a little bit later. We've got all this new fantastic equipment, so he's now decided to start his live show through our studios, which is great for anyone that's interested in conspiracy theories and stuff like that. He's great, brilliant. And I mentioned a young man called James Burke that came on my Between the Spreadsheets show. He was interviewed a few weeks ago, and I was saying how he spent some time in his life living on the streets and rose up from nothing to become one of the country's leading estate agents, and then went from that into being a professional business coach with Action Coach. And the interesting thing there was that we interviewed him, we talked about his life and what he did, and the story was picked up by the Times, so he was on the front page of the Times fairly recently. I'm not sure what day it was. So I like to think that they've watched our show and they've picked it up from that and run with it. So that's what I'm going with. So I'm taking full credit. There you go. In business news, because we're moving over to business news, there was a headline on one of the sort of papers that I tend to read. It was an online thing. And they were talking about an intergalactic federation who have made contact with Earth, specifically the Israeli government and the Trump administration, and they're planning on joining us. The problem is that, like when the Aztecs and a lot of the old peoples were first visited by various explorers, a lot of the tribes and a lot of people were wiped out because of disease. And this is what they think COVID might be. It might be this intergalactic federation coming, and then they've given us a mild version of the illness, not to kill off too many people, and then they've introduced the right type of vaccines in order for us to survive contact with this and usher us on into a new age. Now, my thoughts of that are like any sensible accountant, in that it's opening up new markets, isn't it? So our job now is to get into these, into however we can get into this intergalactic federation and introduce our products and services and find out what they really want. So we've got a new supply and demand for a whole new market. You know, it's there. Go and sell to them. Find out what they want. While we're on that subject of finding out what people want, do bear in mind that the world has shifted, whether it's through an intergalactic expedition or whether it's because the times have just changed and we now need to be supplying everything online or as much as possible. That in turn opens up new markets all over the world, and I implore you and beg you, get your business online. Now, what's interesting now is that we've had the bounce back loan, which I'm going to just mention a little bit of problems with that in a minute, but the government are very kindly bringing out a new similar loan to the bounce back loan to help people develop and supply goods for export. So that's something, isn't it? I mean, especially with Brexit coming, a hard Brexit. You know, I mentioned before that I don't see it's going to be a massive problem to us, a hard Brexit, because even if we end up with difficulties in trade, the bulk of the food supplies, for example, come from Europe, make up about 25% of our total import of food, and most of that is fruit and veg. So it won't affect me because I'm a meat and no veg type of guy. But you know, it's not going to put a lot of money onto your imports. What if you don't like the price of something? Remember, there's British produce as well, and at some point prices are going to stabilise because the market will dictate what you're going to buy. So if you're buying food from the Netherlands, which is where most of it comes from, and it goes up too expensive, then buy British food. And remember, if prices do go up, it gives us more scope to do more in England. So all you manufacturers, all you farmers, everybody in the supply business, you've got opportunities coming up. So don't look at it like that. I mean, at the end of the day, it might put £2 or £3 onto your grocery bill. So just put this in perspective. You know, it's not as terrible as it looks. We always like new markets, so do look at these export grants, loans, sorry, but they're not coming out till the new year. They're not coming out till after Christmas. So, you know, if you're not sure what to do, give me a ring. There's not that much more legislation in going to export. If you do have any problems, just let me know on that. I wasn't going to spend a lot of time talking about that, but just coming back to what it was, I do want to talk about quickly is bounce back loans. Now, I think these bounce back loans have been fabulous, and it's a great initiative of the government. I'm hoping that the government will decide that this is a really good idea and maybe make it a permanent thing, because it's a great boost. One of the problems that small businesses face is not being able to get capital for investment or deals. I know that when I was in the business years ago, when I was buying and selling stock and whatever, there was always some great deal coming along, but I could never find the money to do the deal. Whereas now, if I had a potential of a £50,000 bolster loan at low interest, protected because you're not dealing with loan sharks, then that would have been amazing for me. You know, and I've got clients I've spoken to that have managed to already double that money. So I think that is absolutely fantastic. But so maybe we could lobby the government to make this permanent. It's got to be good for everybody. Just looking though at the other side, if a business is in debt or it has problems, then in my head, the worst thing to do is borrow to get out of those problems, because mainly that's just going to put you further into debt. And when you've gone through the loan, then the problems are still there. So at the end of the day, if the business is failing, the way to support that business is not really to borrow more money. It never has been. So on that basis, I don't think the government's done us any favours. Now, if we know that, well, if we can just hold on for 6 months and that bounce back loan is helping us to do that, then okay. But remember, you have to pay it back. The other worry, and this is coming up, is where businesses can't pay it back. And it's not a case of liquidating the company or going bankrupt or anything like that, because under the terms of this loan, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, is that the business bounce back loan is just for that, for the business. So if you've been using that money for non-business reasons, then the guarantee doesn't really apply. So the banks are going to come after you, and it's a form of fraud, if you like, because you've got the money under false pretenses. So if you think you might have spent that money, you can't pay it back, and you think that the monies may have not gone on business things. I mean, business things are like making your mortgage payments or making your car payments. Then you really need to talk to your accountant or talk to us, and we'll make sure that this will, at least you'll know where you are and what we can do about it. I think this week already, I've told 2 people to pay the money back before they close the company down, because you're not looking at a normal bank loan that disappears in insolvency. So do bear that in mind. I do think the government should have understood a little bit more about this, that when people are looking to survive, then they'll take money from anywhere. And I think we could have been a little bit more careful over this. But, every loan, it's got its advantages and disadvantages. I know some people grab the money, put it into another account just in case, and some of them are now beginning to realise that they never needed it, and it was just a knee-jerk reaction, and they panicked. That's fine, as long as you pay it back. It doesn't matter what you've used it for, you'll be fine as long as you pay it back. So, like anything else, there's been a bit of small print that people needed to understand, and that small print has people become more aware of that, unfortunately, after they've had the loan. So we've talked about the bounce back loans, and we've talked about Brexit as much as we can on a programme like this. And now I've got my main feature. So the main feature is about success, and it's more about defining what success actually means. And there's I've got some notes, but it's a bit jumbled, because it's a point I want to get across. When I was growing up, I was around people in business where it was get money at any price. It didn't matter. The object was money. Make money, make money, make money. And it's funny because I was talking to somebody that I used to know when I was a kid, and I wasn't talking to, sorry, a colleague of mine was on the phone to me, he was on loudspeaker, and he heard me speak, and he said, "Oh, I've got Stephen with you." And the guy said, "Oh, he must have so much money by now." And I said, "You know what, I've got so much money, I've got it all in the bathroom, and I can't even close the bathroom door." But so he found that funny. But that's the mentality. It's all about making money. But maybe that's not what we really want. Now, don't get me wrong. You've got to make money to keep a business going, to make it flow. I mean, there was a great film a few years ago. I don't know if you remember seeing it. It was Kinky Boots. And there was a scene that touched me, and it said it was where the boss was closing down the factory that made shoes. And one of his employees just turned around to him and basically said, "You're the boss. It's up to you to find a way to keep the company going." And in that, she was right. And that's where he found this idea of making boots for men that wanted to wear boots like this. And it was a great film. But that concept I absolutely loved. And it's true. If your goal isn't to make money, to have material things, it should be to look after the staff, to look after your family, to supply what needs supplying and keep the business going. In this society, we're often chasing money for its own sake, and it might not be what we want. We buy things, we buy nice clothes, nice cars, nice houses, and it's more to gain value in other people's eyes. I mean, you've been to parties, you've been to social occasions, you've been everywhere, and people sort of say, "What do you do?" Now, the way you answer that, "What do you do?" or "what you do," can dictate what that other person thinks of you. And it gives them a snapshot and a judgment of you forever. So some of us, we would say, "I'm an accountant. Oh, that's it. My life's over." Other people might say, "I'm an accountant." And it depends what you're proud at. If you're a butcher, be proud. Whatever you are, don't be ashamed. But sometimes we've got internal voices telling us what we should and shouldn't be, and we're judging ourselves. And we only have to open a magazine or look on a television show, and everything is obtainable. And the thing is, we don't compare ourselves to the Queen. We don't compare ourselves to the President or the Prime Minister, because they're out of our league. We don't associate with them. We're not in that sort of area, so we don't compare ourselves. We're not jealous of them. We don't want what they've got. But when it comes to looking at things on TV, looking at things in the newspapers, all of a sudden we can obtain what Bill Gates has done. We can start our own businesses in a garage and become multi-billionaires. In fact, there's this attitude towards meritocracy, which means that if you work hard, if you earn it and deserve it, then that means that you've done it. You deserve it. But on the other side, if you've not earned it, if you've not made it, then that really means that maybe you deserve that as well. So if by achievement you've reached the top, then it means by not achieving, you deserve what you get. It's not you've been unfortunate. It's you deserve what you get. And that's not the right way to look at things. I mean, sometimes you can, on that basis, we're always trying to buy love. We have nice things, so people will respect us, will care about us, will look up to us. And that comes from very deep root in all of us, because when we were babies, if someone didn't love us, would have died. So as we get older, people don't give you that unconditional love. You've got to deserve it. And quite often, the guy that's got the most money will get the most girls. And this is how society seems to look at someone. And really, when people are buying expensive things, then what they're trying to do is prove their way in the world. And I mean, it's like somebody drives past in a brand new red Ferrari. So you shouldn't be thinking, "Who's that effing twat?" You should say, "Oh, that poor guy, he's in need of some deep love, and he's obviously very insecure." And your heart goes out to him, doesn't it? Or her. So just bear in mind that you need to follow your own heart. There's a song there somewhere. But you need to know what motivates you, not what your dad said or your mum said or society expects on you. Success comes from achieving what it is you want to achieve. And you need to think on this. Because some people see psychiatrists to find what this is, because they're so ingrained in pursuing a career in in city accountancy when really what they want to be is a lumberjack. You know, so sometimes we've got to look at what you want and what you care for. You know, they talk about work-life balance, and I think that's a load of bollocks, because you can't have work-life balance. You've got to decide what it is you want out of life, and you've got to say, what am I prepared to sacrifice? Because there's no two ways about it. You can't have intense family life looking at the kids and at the same time go out and build a business empire. So balance maybe is to say, well, I can't have both, but maybe I can have a little bit more of that, you know, without sacrificing too much of that. So you know, do bear that in mind. So now that I've said that, I want to come to some questions. But before I do, in the world of going out and getting business, you're responsible for getting business. You're responsible for running your business. And what I was quite like before is that one of our film crew came in before, and he found this leaflet belonging to, here's something for you, to a blind company, was posted through the door. And I thought, yeah, I mean, it's about time that people got off their arses and went posting leaflet. The guy sells blinds, and what he's done is he's stapled what looks like a handwritten note with his phone number and with his contact details, and he's put a swatch on to say this is a sample of the blinds that we're running. And I think this is a great start. Unfortunately, I phoned him before just to say I was going to mention him on the show, but no one answered the phone. So just bear in mind, if you are going to do this type of thing, make sure that someone's answering the phone. You know, because that can be even worse. So that's good, chuffed. It's good that people do that. So let's look at some questions. You know, we've got one here from Sam Schmuckle. I know who you are, Sam. I know. You sell baby wear clothing. I don't want to pay VAT. Is there anything I can do about it? So you don't want to pay VAT. You know, there is a place that it's great. The government set it up for people that don't want to pay VAT. I think they're called prison. You've got to pay VAT. If you're selling commodities and you're registered for VAT, and you have to be registered for VAT if you're turning over £85,000 or more, or that's a rolling thing each year. But in your case, you sell baby wear, so assuming that everything you sell is baby wear, that's sort of zero rated, so there's no VAT on that. So I don't know who you're talking to. Are you talking to someone in the pubs? Because a lot of people talk to people in pubs and get all this knowledge, which is, I wish they didn't. But you know, if you're selling baby wear, it's zero rated, so there's no VAT. So you're better off being registered for VAT, because then you can recover VAT on expenses and other things that you buy, but you don't have to charge it. So you should be in a state of getting a constant refund. So basically, people that sell fresh food and baby wear and books and stuff like that, you can be registered for VAT and still recover your monies. If you've got any doubts, I'm here. So if you are registered, or you have to be registered, then just don't play games with them. You'll build a better business by being registered for VAT and do it properly. As a general rule of thumb, if you supply your products or services to the public, you're probably going to be out of pocket, because it comes out of your profits. The attitude is, well, you add it on to your price, but all that means, if you could get that extra price, you'd get it anyway. So by being registered for VAT and you supply to the public, you're going to be out of pocket. If you supply to the trade, well, you really do add it as a separate amount to your invoices. So it's actually beneficial for you, because you get to use the VAT money. Don't, because you've got to make sure you can pay it at the end of the quarter, and you can recover all your expenses. So, if you handle it properly, it's the best way to be. So we've got one from Joe Spooner, Tattoo Parlour. The name rings a bell, but I don't think I know you, Joe. I want to promote myself more, but don't know where to start. What's the simplest thing to do? Well, people ask me about promoting their business, and I'm actually an accountant. I'm good on tax, and I'm good on bookkeeping, and I'm okay on that. But promoting the business is more intuitive from me and a little bit from experience. So what I think you should do is decide where you want to be and what sort of money you need. And we've covered this in previous talks where we said we can't what you need to be out there measuring how much money you need, and then look at what sales you need, and then we go out and look for that type of client. So you need to identify that first. Where I would always start from is my own community, because we talked about this last week. Start with people that you know, people that can help you promote the business, and just really put a stall at the end of your garden and say, here I am. But that's basically what you're doing. Incidentally, this might be as good a time as any. I don't know if you know, but I've got a very nice young gentleman called Ed. And Ed's my PR manager. Ed's the guy that sets all this up and makes me look as handsome and as articulate as he possibly can. Obviously, we've got camera people here as well, but they're not as important. And Ed runs a small business himself called Project Charisma, and he actually trains people and talks to people and helps them to present themselves and talk properly and all sorts of things. He's also, which I'm helping him sponsor, is starting to offer services for people quite cheap. You know, we're not out to rip anyone off. That will help them promote themselves on social media in general, and I think it's a great way to get started. So this question wasn't planned. It's just I saw the question, thought I'd take an advantage and introduce Ed. But if you do want to speak to Ed, just contact me, and you can speak to him direct, and we can try and set. I mean, we've got a whole studio here. We won't charge you to use the studio. We'll just put the camera together, and we'll put we'll put everything together for you, and we'll get it out there with you and show you how to promote it. And anyway, that's my plug for Ed. David Hill, personal trainer. I started up 2 years ago, but with COVID, my business has stalled and customers have dropped. Should I try to stick with it? Well, if something's not working, then there's no point doing anything. I mean, if you're a personal trainer and you have to touch people or be in the same room with them, well, and you've got expenses, and you don't feel that things are going to recover quick enough for you to stay in the business, then I'd say start something different. Now, a good friend of mine, he was actually my personal trainer. He obviously, as soon as this lockdown went on, he specialises in middle-aged accountants and solicitors and people like me, and he's quite therapeutic. But part of what he did was some sports massage, and obviously he can't do that. But what he's done, he's been working with one of our coaches. Funny enough, the coach, a lady named Vicky Nee, and she's actually based in Canada, but she's been helping him. And what he's now doing is doing the personal training online. So you can subscribe to one of his online channels, and he can train you online. It's very good. It means he can't hit me if I do it wrong. So maybe have a look at that. Maybe having a look at some online training. And if you want to speak to Vicky to help, I'll give you her number. In fact, you don't even need it. Just go to my Facebook site. In fact, any of my sites, and you'll find her details. And working with Ed to do the actual physical stuff, I think you could have a business going there. I mean, it doesn't just apply to personal training. It can apply to anything. And my final question of the evening is Nathan from Bolton. Once COVID is finished, will I be paying more tax? If so, should I start saving for this now? You pay tax on profits. So if you've not made any profits, you won't be paying any tax. Somehow or other, HMRC and the government are going to have to recover monies from the amount of funding that they've done, and probably a little bit extra as well. So yes, I would imagine that tax rates will go up. They won't come back to you and say, right, give me X amount of money. They might put a percentage on the amount of tax that you pay. So if it's 20% at the moment, it might go up to 21. There might be talk of it going up to 30 to ease the blow when it goes up to 21.5. But that will probably go up, and tax will probably go up. But I don't believe it's going to happen like that. I believe it's going to be a slow input, because I think the government's been quite good throughout all of this, and I don't think they're going to want to rock the boat and cause undue stress and anxiety for people. But at the end of the day, tax is based on the profits you make. So if you're not making any profits, don't worry about it. You won't pay more money just because you've had grants and stuff like that. They're not asking for it back. So just bear that in mind. Just something that just occurred to me, going back to Brexit and the supermarkets. As you know, I'm not a big fan of supermarkets or big business in general. I think they're constantly trying to find new ways of extracting more cash from you. And bear this in mind, when we come out of Brexit, whether it's a hard exit or a soft exit, which means has a difference on the way we do business with them and the amount of tariffs and blockages they put and what we can and can't do. But when we do come out of it, remember that the effect isn't going to be on 100% of products. So if the main effect are going to be on supplies from EU, just remember that only about 25-30% of our total imports come from the EU, and a lot of that are not sold in shops, the commercial products. So when prices do go up, bear in mind that they don't need to go up on any more than on existing imports. So if stuff are coming from UK farmers, why does the price need to go up? So just bear in mind, because sometimes in the past when petrol, for instance, has gone up, they say, right, petrol's going up from the 1st of next month, but some garages suddenly put the prices up straight away. So, you know, everyone's entitled to make a profit, but and if that's the case, and this is not a consumer show, this is something direct to small businesses, don't forget to take the same advantage yourself and put all your prices up. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for joining me, and I hope I've been of use to you. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get the alerts, and hopefully next week YouTube and LinkedIn channels will be working properly, especially with what we've just spent on all this new equipment. So thank you and good night.